future is within us. Some of that sounds like 20th century thought, like Whitehead is happening. Is there
yeah, yeah. Is Whitehead influenced by this? You know, I'm inclined to say wait till we read Whitehead. There are similarities. I don't think of anything in Whitehead that appeals to Leibniz. He is much more influenced by the 19th century idealists like Hegel and Bradley. On the other hand, Whitehead worked for a long time with Bertrand Russell. And one of Russell's first books was on Whitehead. Well, take it back, was on Leibniz. So it's hard to say. The ultimate constituents of reality for Whitehead are rather analogous to Leibniz monads. And it's an analogy that may be rather striking. Now, I say I don't think of anywhere in Whitehead where he expresses debt to Leibniz, but you know, as I say that, there's one section of his major work that I'd want to check, where he may, when he's reviewing some historical matters. But there are similarities that are interesting. David?
How do you just give a case or a very general sketch of how, like Hasker or another, you know, free will person with libertarian would argue or show the policies within his?
Well, I think. Well, let me start here. I don't remember any time when I've heard or read Hasker criticizing Leibniz. In effect, what he says, and in his little metaphysics book he says it, is that any kind of compatibilism in which one's free choices are caused by one's own nature, which nature is itself caused. Even if there is some feedback from our reactions which are caused, which modify our nature, you see, any kind of compatibilism in which freedom is caused by our own natures really is no more than determinism. It's simply a matter of inner causation rather than external causation. That's the complaint. It seems to me that what Leibniz is trying to do is to preserve not only human freedom in a sense, but also the freedom of God to act. Notice how different Leibniz is from the sort of deistic picture of God, in which God has created a person, and that's it, you see. Leibniz God is one who continually imparts existence, one who attracts the choice of an individual by virtue of his grace. So he's much more theologically adequate than the kind of deistic picture. And it seems to me that what Descartes has given us is sort of a deistic picture of human freedom. Now, he's pre-deism, and I think it's unintentional on his part. But the picture seems to be, all right, God gave you a free will, now it's up to you. Well, you know, no Calvinist is going to be happy with that. You see, and I don't think a good Arminian should be happy with that either. You see. No, because God continues to be active, involved with us. So Leibniz doesn't want the indeterminism of Descartes. That's very clear. Yeah.
And after Hasker shows that, and he says that since determinism is wrong, compatibility is wrong.
Yeah. Notice that for Leibniz, because there is no cause-effect relationship between mind and body, there's cause-effect relationships between bodies, which are composites, but not between mind and body, spirit and body. It follows that the mind, the will, is therefore free from physical causation. You see, so there's no external causes that can determine. All that can determine is the internal. And the question there is whether I can modify my nature. Now, you see, God can, by virtue of the continual creative process and the grace which is special in attracting. But yes, I can modify my own nature if I think clearly about what appears to be good. But is that thinking clearly something which is predetermined? That's where the ambiguity is. Yeah, so Hasker's point is if indeterminism, no, take it back, if necessitarianism is wrong, if compatibilism reduces to a kind of necessitarianism, then the only alternative is, you see. And I guess I'd want to at least try out the hypothesis that Leibniz is providing a fourth alternative. You know, any time you get a disjunctive argument, A or B or C, and somebody argues A is wrong, B is wrong, therefore C, well, only provisionally until some smart aleck comes up with D. You see, and I think Leibniz may have come up with D. All right, now let's turn to the material we have, the outline I passed around on the problem of evil. Did everybody get one of that, or any stragglers? You have one? Everybody have one? Pass one along, would you, to the end? Okay, what I've done here is pull together a series of things which will put his treatment of the problem of evil in its larger systematic context. Okay? Starting with material from the monadology. The principle of sufficient reason implies a final cause outside the sequence of contingent events. A teleological argument. That final cause is a necessary and perfect being, altogether good, altogether desirable. In nature, on the other hand, there are imperfections. Imperfections that are part of the very nature of things. There are apples that rot, and our bodies too are recyclable. Imperfections in nature. On the other hand, he speaks of eternal truths, concepts of everything in nature, in the mind of God, preconceives everything. He uses the word archetypes, the Augustinian tradition. The very essence of God is to exist. And there's an implicit ontological argument there that you're familiar with. But nature, derived by fulguration, because God is the source of all being, nature is harmonized not just once and for all at the beginning and then messed up. That's almost a deistic conception. But nature is continually being harmonized by the intervention of God as well as his continued activity. And there are repeated times when he uses the word intervention. adjustment. So that this is the best of all possible worlds. There are others which God has conceived. Yeah. Worlds without Judases or Peters. The best of all possible worlds. And that seems to be an a priori truth. He's not arguing empirically that this is the best of all possible worlds, but on an a priori basis. Granted the conceptions that he's been building here in terms of the hierarchy of being. Now, it's that notion that this is the best of all possible worlds which came under satirical attack by Voltaire in his Candide. Are you familiar with that work? Voltaire's Candide, in which he pictured somebody traveling the world around and discovering all of the horrible things, and in a catastrophic earthquake in the city of Lisbon, meeting, who is it, Professor Pangloss, which means all talk. You can imagine who that stands for. Professor Pangloss muttering as he walks through the ruins, "This is the best of all possible worlds." The satirical criticism of Leibniz, you see. Best of all possible worlds. You find in a number of places in that passage, sections 53 to 55, also in section 86, a number of passages where the reason why this is the best of all possible worlds is that God is all wise, God is all powerful, and God is all good. He comes back to that again and again. God is all wise, God is all powerful, God is all good. Now, if you take these as propositions, 1, 2, 3, and add a fourth proposition, you have the classic formulation of the logical problem having to do with evil. Because of the claim that proposition 4 is logically incompatible with the first three. If God is all wise, he'd know what to do about it. If he's all powerful, he could do it. If he's altogether good, he would want to do it. Evil exists, so at least one of the other premises must be false. Now, the usual modification is to say, in terms of the greater good argument of Aquinas, and you'll find that in Leibniz as well, oh, but evil is allowed for a greater good. So the usual response is to edit the fourth and to make it read, purposeless evil exists. Evil that serves no greater good. Purposeless evil exists. And that certainly is what Leibniz is asserting.